Hey, Fanboy Nation.
This is your pal Daffy Duck, and you're watching.
We're watching
You're watching Fanboy.
Fanboy.
A fanboy, etc.
Fanboy Nation.
Dot, I assume Tom.
Premiering this week at the Florida Film Festival just north of Orlando is the film Icon. And today I have the pleasure of speaking with Tony Ahedo, and I'm butchering his last name, so any Spanish speaker out there, please forgive me. But Tony, my Cuban-American friend, how are you today, sir?
I'm doing well. Yeah, excited to talk about the movie.
Listen, man, you know, this is not an easy film to watch. It's a heavy topic that a lot of people have gone around living and experiencing. Even Madonna made a song about this 30 years ago with Papa Don't Preach. But on top of everything else, you know, there's the topic of unwanted pregnancy. There's dealing with youth pregnancy. There's dealing with the notion of wanting to keep it or get rid of it in an unsavory manner that some people would believe. How did the story come about? Because it's based on a true story, and then to fictionalize it, you know, it's along the lines of Juno, but not a lighthearted comedy.
Yeah. So the story came about a couple years ago when I wrote a short story in college. I wrote about the last time I saw my dad when I was a kid. And so as soon as I wrote the story, I had some friends tell me that I should visualize this, make it a film, kind of go into it. So I made a short film, all based on the arcade memory that is in the feature version. So that is the truth from Icon. So everything to deal with the flashbacks and kind of the dad plot line is stuff I drew from my life growing up. It was something that I felt affected me as a young man growing up and things I always wondered. And I felt it was a film that could reach a lot of those other kids or even men that kind of went through the same thing.
Yeah. Well, it's an unfortunate situation, but that you lived through it, but you survived, you graduated college, you beat the statistics, and you've made something of yourself. So I congratulate you for that, because, you know, that is an uphill battle when your dad's not around.
Yeah, thanks, man. Yeah, a lot of, you know, what Icon is, it was more, you know, that iconic image of your head. You know, everybody has an idea of like who their parents are. And when you're growing up, even if they're there, you know, mom, dad are superheroes. They're that. So the idea of, you know, when that parent's not there, that image doesn't go away. And there's, you know, when you don't know them, you know, that kind of superhero mentality kind of stays with that person. So, you know, that's the reason behind the title and behind the short story, and kind of go in there. And Sam, the main character, definitely kind of learns the hard way that there's a reason why, you know, it's, you know, kind of just an icon in his head.
And we don't want to give too much away because we want people to see it at the Florida Film Festival going on right now up until April 22nd. This is a 13-day festival, which is huge.
Yeah. So Florida Film Festival, we're actually going to have our in-person premiere on the 22nd. So they're doing COVID-regulated practices. You got to wear masks, social distancing, all those things. But yeah, we're really excited. I mean, it's the first time I'm gonna have a live audience watch it, like with me there and like seeing it, and not just kind of people getting to see the film like through their computer screen. So I'm really excited to see, you know, which part of the story that audiences can connect to, because like you were saying earlier, there's just, you know, a lot of different storylines that I feel fit different people.
Now, you're a local boy. You grew up in Florida. Did you go to college in Florida as well?
Yeah. So I went to Ringling College in Sarasota. Got all my training there. I started filming skateboarding when I was a kid, so I didn't have I wasn't making necessarily like narrative movies when I was a kid, but I went to school to kind of learn how to do that.
You know, what's it like? This is now your first major feature film, and you're already the closing night film in your home state's film festival. Like, how big is that for you?
I mean, it's awesome. You know, I think it's what you kind of dream of, when you're making films. And for my first one, I wanted to do something that I knew and wanted it to be in Florida, wanted it to kind of be there and to, premiere at the Florida Film Festival, which I've tried to get short films in there before, and they're very strict. And that was always very tough. So, my first feature to get in there and be the closing night was like, I don't have words for it. It's awesome. So our whole team is so excited to just go take over that theater.
I love it, man. See, I'm a little upset with myself because I was in Florida in February, and if I had paid attention to the calendar, I could have been at the film festival this year.
It's still weird with COVID, man. That's the biggest thing. So like, a lot of people want to make it and come down. I tell them like, hey, just, it's still a risk. We're going to have more festivals coming up. We're going to do it, but this one is going to be very special. They have a great lineup this year. And everything, as long as you're in Florida, you can watch it, like virtually. So I think every film. So some films you can watch, I think, in the US, but cool fest.
The thing with this film in particular, since it's so close to home for you and there's so much of your own personal life that's inspired the story, what's been your mom's reaction when she's seen the film, knowing everything that you've gone through and kind of reliving it with this narrative?
So it's a cool story, and she has not seen the film yet. We're waiting till the 22nd. So at the premiere, that's the first time she's going to see it. So I'm very excited to show it to her. I told her it's going to be an emotional ride for you. I think it's going to be an emotional ride for me being there with her, even though I've seen the film 100 times. But
so you're going to make the poor lady cry on closing night of the film festival? Like, you're really trying to pull those viewer votes, aren't you?
No, I think it's more, I just want her, you want your parents or your mom to come to your big premiere and see it in the movie theater the way it's supposed to be. So, and that's the way she wants to see it. And she's super excited. So she knows what the film is about, obviously. I talked to her a lot about it when I was writing it and making it. But I don't think she knows what's in store for her. So
right. Well, you have Parker Padgett playing the main character, Sam, who's loosely based on you, going through a situation where he wants to be the father of his unborn child and be there for his kid when his dad wasn't. How important was that for you to put that in the story of the main character didn't have his father around when he needed him, so now he has to be the father he didn't have, or at least want to be that guy?
I think that is, one of the main points or themes of the film is, it's not being destined to be your parent, not following in the same footsteps, not, breaking that kind of cycle. Because I think that's very important. And I think a lot of people go through that. Some people aren't able to break that cycle, but the main character, Sam, he flirts with becoming his father the entire movie, picking up a life of crime and kind of doing those things. So it was very important to kind of, in the end, make it that he isn't his dad, and he's going to be the first Sam, the first person I'm saying.
Right. It's like people that have an addiction, there's a history of addiction in the family. If one's an alcoholic, the other one can be an alcoholic or a gambler or whatever else that goes along with it. And Sam is the one that's breaking the sins of the past, apparently.
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff I think I dealt with as a kid, just like thinking about it. And so it was just an important theme. There's a good line in the film that sums up Sam's mentality, and it's, do you think people are supposed to be bad? And, it all stems down, he's, smoking weed with his friend and just kind of high thoughts, thinking about it, but it means so much more because it's, you know, it's in my blood. You hear that frame all the time, or you hear the phrase, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, those kinds of things. So growing up with just those kind of stigmatisms and, you know, having, you know, somebody that maybe isn't the best role model that, you know, you share blood with or things like that. And it doesn't even have to be a dad or a mom. It could be uncle, it could be a grandfather, it can be something in there. You know, it stems all the way back to films like The Godfather, you know, where lineage is such an important thing. I just thought breaking that cycle was more important for his character to kind of overcome, you know, the tropes of being, you know, adolescent with not a bright future.
Right. We can even go back all the way to the 1930s and compare it to The Jazz Singer, where the main character wants to break away from the tradition and create a new life in America instead of holding on to the values of the old world.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely, you know, I definitely drew a lot of influences from other films I had seen and kind of how they did it. But at the end of the day, I wanted to kind of speak my truth and, you know, what I felt was a good way to kind of get that example across. And for me, that was, you know, through lineage.
Is this like a big moral victory for you after having applied to the Florida Film Festival for short films, and then all of a sudden your first feature ends up being their closing night film? Like, is that a major victory? It's like, yes, you know, I feel vindicated for having been rejected before. And not only am I part of the festival, I'm the closing night film in my home state.
I would say not really. I mean, I don't take rejections personally. I think, as you know, any filmmaker knows, it's like you're gonna get a lot of them. There's so many reasons why films don't get into certain festivals, and so I never really held Florida, you know, any ill will towards it, or like, I'm gonna show you guys. Like, there's none of that attitude. It was more just like, maybe it'll get in this time. Yeah, this one's really important to me. This is a Florida film through and through. And so, and it did, yeah. I talked to Tim, who's the festival director, and he, you know, their whole program stuff, they were just like blown away from the film, and they were like, we really want to screen it this year. So
I dig it, man. All right, listen, Florida gets a bad rap from time to time. I need you to sell Florida to people and say why they need to go to the film festival next year when your second film is going to be in there.
Yeah, so Florida for me is just, you know, it's home. It's where I grew up. It's where I like being. There's so many different things to do there. Going to that festival specifically, I mean, you can go to the Florida Film Festival and go to Universal Studios the next day. There's so much in Orlando, kind of around that area, and I think Florida gets a bad rap because you know, Florida man stuff and just general crazy things going on. Like, I know people think it's the breathing ground for the pandemic right now, but it's just got something special to it. And, you know, I think a lot of Florida natives, you know, it's a reason why they don't want to leave or they don't want to go anywhere else. And, you know, specifically where like Icon takes place in Saint Petersburg, which is my hometown. It's such a gem in the rough of Florida. I think there's no other city like it in Florida. It's unique to itself. It reminds me a lot of some places in like California, where there's just, you know, a lot of cool art and urban things going on versus just, you know, what you see typical of Florida, which is retirement homes, beaches, and alligators and swamps. It's like, it's, you know, it's not what Florida is. And I definitely wanted that was another goal of Icon, was to kind of show that, you know, the real Florida that I grew up in. You know, because while we maybe go to the beach for like a quick, you know, montage shot or something like that, it's not the forefront of the story as you would think it is, you know. So yeah, come to Florida. It's great. There is all that crazy stuff too.
I'm going to give you my take on Florida, though. I think that's your guys' ad campaign to keep the New Yorkers out. You know, Like, look at the alligator, wait for the red light to turn green so it can cross the street. This guy found a snake in his toilet. This guy had a python wrap itself around his transmission so he couldn't get to work. Like, that's your ad campaign to keep New Yorkers out. That's what I'm convinced of.
Yeah, but I mean, we don't keep them out. That's the thing is, you know, I'm a huge Tampa Bay Rays fan. So like I'll go to the games and it's like mostly sometimes Yankees fans there. And it's just, you know, you get a lot of snowbirds. But it's okay. I think I'd like to see more creative things coming back to Florida, like the production incentives and things like that, because it would just make things a whole lot easier. It makes, you know, a film like Icon, yeah, just generally easier to get everybody on board. And, you know, maybe we don't have to fly in as many people, or, you know, because a lot of my good Florida people that worked on Icon moved out of state because, you know, not a lot of things are happening with the film industry there. I think they're trying to change that, but I don't know.
You know, it's come across that we don't really necessarily need to be in Hollywood anymore. I mean, Atlanta's become a big hub. Austin's become a big hub. Even outside of Denver, stuff's being made, in New Mexico, and then of course all the stuff in Canada and New Zealand, that it would make sense that Florida would pick up a lot of the stuff that California loses. Sunshine State, everything going on, baseball, bikinis, and whatever else, because that's essentially Miami at that point.
Yeah, I think it's gonna happen. I think, you know, a lot of the politics, they just gotta kind of wrap their head around what these incentives bring again, because it is a huge, you know, it's a huge revenue generator and it's a huge economic boost. Having all those things, it's like crazy that, you know, they filmed Baywatch in Georgia, like, you know, just to get that production credit. So I think if Florida did have it, you're absolutely right. It's sunshine, you know, 90% of the time.
Well, I do have to ask, you know, let's go through the production of the film. What was the shooting schedule like? I mean, it's a limited budget, you know, the budgeting, getting funding for it. Was there a state incentive, like how some college students in certain states will get a college stipend to make a feature film for festivals or whatever else? Like, how did that come about for you?
Yeah. So we had some private investment, but we did end up getting a grant from the Saint Petersburg Film Commission to, you know, make the film. So that was great. That was a lot of help. So a lot of the local counties, they do want film there. Like the local film commissions, at least I can really only kind of speak in the Tampa Bay area because that's where I have the most expertise. But the Tampa and St. Pete Film Commission, they both helped us. We did shoot with Miami, because we filmed our prison scenes in Miami. But yeah, they help as much as they can. Until a state thing kind of happens, it's not gonna really go any forward. But we ended up filming, we split our production into two chunks. We did December of 2019 and January of 2020. So being an indie film and taking on a lot of, you know, everybody just wearing multiple hats, so taking on a lot of jobs, we had to be kind of smart. So that's why we kind of split the film into two chunks and then use the holidays as like a reset for us. So again, shooting in Florida, you probably can't even tell that it's winter there. Because, you know, we got Parker skating with the shirt off. We got them swimming in pools, doing all those kinds of things in the film. And yeah, we're able to do it when it's, you know, January and 60 degrees out. So the production, you know, all happened there. We literally wrapped right before the first lockdown. So I think, you know, our last couple of days of pickups were, you know, maybe the last day of February, if I remember correctly. And then, you know, 2 weeks later, we're all shut down. So yeah, right after that, since I now all of a sudden had all this time, I decided to, okay, I guess I'll edit the film. You know, I kind of had an idea that I was going to be doing anyway, but I was looking at other editors. But since my schedule opened up, I was like, I'm just going to sit down and make this the way it needs to be. And yeah, so it was great because wasn't allowed to go do a lot of things. And I was just, you know, kind of not forced to to make it happen, but you know, a lot of times you get just fatigued from editing, but it's like, okay, this is what I'm here to do. This is, you know, what I'm doing today.
Right. And take us through the difficulties of being the writer, the director, and the editor on a film, because sometimes you get married to a page, sometimes you get married to a scene that you really want to be in the film but doesn't fit the narrative.
Yeah, it's super tough to do all of them, because you're kind of not getting that second pair of eyes, so or third pair of eyes. So the way I did it was, you know, as a writer, I got a lot of feedback on the drafts to kind of know what I was getting into. And then since I was the director, if somebody was telling me like, hey, I don't think this scene is necessary, that I would kind of mark it as, okay, this might not be important. But I think I filmed everything so I can make those decisions later. And a lot of the times, you know, when I would get into the editing room, yeah, if it's not needed, I would cut it out. Our first cut of the movie was, I think, you know, 2 hours and 30 minutes. So, you know, with the final being just under an hour 50, you know, we cut out roughly 30 minutes of the film, 30, 40 minutes of the film. So it's hard to kind of get to that point to kind of cut and do all that. And after, you know, you've read it, then you're on set for every single take, and then you're watching every single take and cutting it. You kind of lose, what's the word I'm looking for? You kind of like lose like a fresh pair, just like a fresh vision on it, or like is this scene working? Is this emotional beat? Because, you know, the first time I'll watch, I'm feeling the emotions, but, you know, the 50th time I watch it, I'm like, shit, is this working? I don't know. And then, so lots of reviews, and, you know, just having a good team that would do what they can through just giving me feedback, even though we were separated, because that was the thing, is I couldn't have anybody in the room working with my composers, working with some of the people helping with some color grading and like designing LUTs and things like that for us. It all had to be remote through Zoom, and then shipping hard drives and figuring that it was a little bit of a pain in the butt to do all those things that normally it's like, you know, you have collaboration in the room with you, but when you're just kind of like locked by yourself, it's, you know, it's a lot more, I guess frustrating would be the word, because you don't know if you're making the right calls when you've been staring at something for, I mean, God, over a year.
Well, you do have to get up and take a break before you burn out completely. But you're also giving us 40 minutes of extra bonus features for the DVD release.
Yeah. There's definitely some scenes that will make the cut that are just, you know, super fun, or just scenes that, like, you know, we shot a lot, and, you know, there's maybe 15 seconds of that scene in there, but it's like a full 3-minute scene that has like a lot of good content. So, yeah, I mean, it's something that I learned working on my previous show, Barry Baker Aspiring Serial Killer, which was a comedy. And, you know, with comedies, you just have to like get to the point, get to the joke, get to that, and just keep it really thin. So I just got really used to just not being married to anything, and just chopping things up if they need to be. And if something didn't work, try something completely new. Yeah. So, yeah, I think overall, writing and directing is fun. Definitely still prefer to have additional people always, I think, on that side.
With Icon being semi-autobiographical and inspired by true life events, especially your own stories, there has to be a point where you're filming a scene that was really close to home, that, you know, the real story is better than the fictionalized story that you used, that you had to take a pause or something to reflect on, or even change your perspective on it. Was there more than one time that happened in making this film, or was it like, let's get it done and then I could have that reflection later on after the shoot's over?
Yeah, you know, I think a lot of, I think there's always that in the back of my head. one of the things with this film that I really tried to do was I tried to let the actors become the characters. And so one of the things, and it's, the privilege I had being the writer and director was, we would go on set and I would have this scene that I wrote by myself, one person, one voice. And I knew what I wanted from the scene. I knew the purpose. I knew the beats I had to hit. I knew the lines that needed to be said. But I would go up to Parker and Devon, who Devon plays Anna in the film. And I would tell them like, hey, guys, I am one person. If something sounds a little bit more natural for you to say a certain way, this is what I need from this scene. This is why you're here. This is what you're doing today. And, they would practice the scene and we would just rehearse until we all got comfortable with, just kind of this big collaboration effort. So that always kept it grounded and not necessarily, it felt just different than what reality was. So for me, it was more about not portraying every life event super accurately, but making sure what was happening in the film was truthful for everybody experiencing it. And yeah, I think, sorry, just let me find my train of thought. Yeah, one of the things about like writing and directing again is when it came to like incorporating the reality side of things, I was always able to refer to like my past experience. So if Parker had a question about why he's doing something in a scene, I could say, I could try to draw on like, why would I do this? Even if I didn't do the scene, if I didn't do that actual life event, if I didn't go, I'm trying not to give away too much of the film, but, per se, confront muggers, I'll just refer to that scene. But, I would say this is why I was doing this. This is what I would have been doing. And I could kind of draw on that. And that helped Parker a lot, just kind of having me there as like kind of that real character that it was based off of, just for him to get in the right headspace. So all in all, it made a lot of truth and a lot of like authentic emotions and feelings come out on set. And a lot of that was just, kind of the environment we set up. Being an indie, you have to kind of set yourself up to win a lot of the times and use your production value the best you can. So all I had, going is just, we didn't have a lot of budget. We didn't have a huge team, but we had time, we had planning, and we had, me, just knowing the story inside and out.
Tony, I'm going to leave you with this, and forgive me if it gets too personal, but you got to save this question for the end so people don't cut you off and give you the finger and run out 10 minutes in. If your dad's still with us on this side of the living, I don't know if you guys developed a relationship afterwards or not. What would you want him to get from seeing this film?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So the whole point of Icon and, why it was so important is because, I went through this similar experience when I was a kid. And when I talked to, this man when I was growing up, a teenager, he was just a stranger, and that was the biggest takeaway from that. And that's, it didn't really affect me then at the time. So I was just like, oh, that was weird, but it just kind of shattered this image. So it's like not really anything personal to, per se, my dad or anything like that. Like this wasn't like a film meant out to make him the bad guy or, isolate him. It was just a way for me to talk about kind of that revelation I had, shattering that icon and just what I dealt with and what I experienced as a kid, because it's a lot to go on when you're 17, 18 and you're growing up and you're trying to figure out who you are and what kind of dad will you be in the future? What kind of person are you going to be? So
Tony, I dig it, man. This is a heavy film, but one that needs to be told, and I'm glad you told it. Where can we find you on social media if we want to connect with you?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram, TJ Ahedo. You can find me on there. I post a whole bunch of stuff from my other films. Icon also. We also have an Instagram for the movie called Icon the Movie. You go on there, we'll announce all the different film festivals, behind the scenes things. We got a whole bunch of stuff just lined up that we're just kind of waiting to release. So yeah, that's probably the best place. Just find me on Instagram. I think that's the platform that I use the most. So
I love it, man. Tony Ahedo, thank you so much for your time. The red carpet and screening of the closing night film of Icon is Thursday, April 22nd at 6 p.m. Eastern from the Florida Film Festival just north of Orlando. It's been a great pleasure with talking with you. I can't wait to see what you have next. And maybe I'll catch you at one of the film festivals out west when we can finally get together.
yeah, that'd be great, man.